leader Chris Valenti. We've got some fucking breaking news. FBI Director Kash Patel, Trump's sycophant and loyalist, is he's testifying before the Senate Appropriations Committee regarding a whole lot of different violations of the Constitution. As you know, and we've covered it numerous times, the Trump regime is violating due process for illegal immigrants. We now have like average Joes. There's even somebody in this chat. He's a very uneducated Christian nationalist who was saying, yeah, no due process for illegal immigrants, but due process for me. This is because of the complete downfall of the American education system. But Kash Patel is asked directly, do you understand that due process is for all citizens? And he says, yes. Sorry, not all citizens, all people. And he says, yes. And then he goes, all right, well, what about all the people who are not getting due process? And suddenly Kash Patel goes, oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a constitutional expert. So we're going to watch Trump's hand-picked loyalist and sycophant for the FBI just say some fucking insane shit, just to give you an example of how absolutely doomed we are. We also just got a $5 donation from Crazy Pain 93. Christian worships Trump like a god. Yes, he does. Christian is the guy that we're talking about, the Christian nationalist in chat. Real quick reminder, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It costs you nothing and it helps me immensely. And if you do want to help the channel financially, because this is real independent media and I have no funding, all you got to do is become a patron on Patreon for $5. Big shout out to the patrons. Become a member on YouTube for $5. Big shout out to the members. Donate some money in the chat, like that guy just did, Crazy Pain 93. Buy some Valenti Videos merch or use a 40% off discount on the Ground News Vantage subscription in the description. So without further ado, let's watch Kash Patel make an absolute fool of the United States judicial system and the entirety of the FBI.
Senator Merkley.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Director Patel. And so as I understood it, you testified yesterday that you'd like to have another $1 billion added on to the FY25 level to do the additional work you'd like to do on.
Also, this is coming right after, if you saw my last video, the Trump regime budget just went through, and it includes like fucking billions of dollars added to the like National Defense Department, and it's just going, all this money's going to the fucking FBI and the Secret Service and ICE, and all of the money is just going to be padded in the pockets of these fucking elitists.
Drug interdiction, fentanyl in general, and anti-terrorism. And today you gave us a budget that requests cutting $500 million. Which is it? Do you want us to, what are you asking of this committee? To add funds, add $1 billion, or to cut $500 million?
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the opportunity. What I'm asking for is that with more, I can simply do more. And I was giving examples of what more I could do. I can do the mission and a supporting.
If you give me another $1 billion, I can go to all of the universities in America and I can round up all of the pro-Palestinian students and we can send them all to fucking Libya. How about that? How about that?
In support of the budget here, and I'm working with appropriators and you to fill the gaps.
So you support the budget presented that cuts $500 million, but you also support us adding $1 billion should we choose to do that?
Well, I can't not support the budget as proposed, because then I would be supporting no budget.
Okay. Well, we've got those two options. We do look forward to further details from you about how you plan to modify the function of FBI on these different missions that you've highlighted today, so that we can give it the appropriate consideration. Mm-hmm. Director Patel, you're familiar with the Fifth Amendment.
Here's the juice. Fifth Amendment, ladies and gentlemen. All persons within the United States of America are entitled to due process under the law. That means illegal immigrants too.
Yes, Senator.
And it is really the freedom clause of the United States. It was
another $5 donation from Rocky Lucid, JFC. Christian is back in the chat again. Of course he is.
4 years into being a nation when Congress and the states said, hey, we have to make sure that there's not an over-aggressive government in the future that deprives us of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And you're familiar that that applies to all persons in the United States.
Yes, Senator.
All persons.
So there's been a lot of concern about the several hundred immigrants who were swept off the streets of America and sent to El Salvador without due process. And does that concern you?
Senator, I'm not in a position to comment on whether or not they were given or not given due process or are supposed to be afforded due process. All the FBI did and all the FBI will continue to do is arrest those that have violated the law.
Okay.
This is the fucking director of the FBI saying that he doesn't know if due process was given to the people that he arrested.
But to arrest, you have to investigate. Have you launched an investigation of this violation of the Freedom Clause of the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, I don't know that I agree with your characterization.
Well, that was my first question, whether or not you agree with the Fifth Amendment and are prepared to defend it. It is your job to investigate crimes.
Yes, I agree with the Fifth Amendment. I agree with the entire Constitution, and the men and women at the FBI decide.
So are you going to launch an investigation of the reported violation of the due process of several hundred individuals?
Again, Senator, it's not for me to call the balls and strikes on it. The men and women at the FBI who are trained to open investigations will make those calls.
So you have no influence
due process
over whether an investigation is opened?
I have influence over it, but you're asking me a constitutional question. I'm not a constitutional scholar.
Well, it's actually not it's a question also of law.
But your position is that every one of those individuals is by constitutional right afforded due process.
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm telling you.
He doesn't know the answer to that. I know the answer to that, and I'm a dumbass fucking YouTuber. You all know the answer to that, and you're just in the fucking chat. This is the director of the fucking FBI.
No, you haven't read the Constitution? It says all persons.
I've got it right here, but what you're saying is that every single one of the illegals that was sent down to El Salvador is supposed to be given due process pursuant.
Yeah, that's what the Constitution says.
That's what it says.
Say that.
Where does it say? What did he just say? Did he just say, where does it say that?
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that? It says it in black and white, you stupid fuck!
It does say no person. Yeah, I'll encourage you to read it. Because it's also been affirmed by the Supreme Court repeatedly. On the case of Miranda versus Arizona, held the right of all individuals, regardless of citizenship status, the Supreme Court in Reno versus Flores. I mean, but it's the plain language of the Constitution. It concerns me that you're not familiar with the core concept of due process applying to all persons as written in black and white in the Constitution.
As the first public defender who's ever served at the FBI as its director, I am more aware of due process than any predecessor in my seat.
Shut the fuck up, Four Eyes, you stupid piece of shit. You're the fucking director of the FBI, and you can't say plainly whether or not due process applies to all persons, you fucking rat. You don't know your fucking thumb from your dick. Get out of my do not piss on my fucking face and then tell me it's raining.
You are delineating between removal proceedings and criminal acts. My job is to investigate criminal acts. That's what we do.
You are aware that the Fifth Amendment refers to taking away liberty, and when people are arrested on the street, detained and sent out of the country, that their liberty has been taken away.
Senator, that is a constitutional question that you are asking me to answer. It's
You're the director of the FBI!
not for me to answer.
The question has already been answered by the Supreme Court that they're protected. Therefore, it's a violation of law, and it's your responsibility to open an investigation. And you're saying today you will not do so?
I am not the agency involved in removal proceedings. That is a different branch of government.
So if an agency other than the FBI violates the law and the Constitution, you will not investigate because it's a different agency?
I will investigate every violation of law.
Well, no, you won't. You haven't investigated any of the violations of the Fifth Amendment.
But you just said you're not investigating.
No. You and I are in disagreement on what is a violation of law. I have yet to hear from the Supreme Court your position as you have adjudicated it.
Well, very, very interesting, because the Supreme Court's been very clear, and I had heard you were trained in the law, so I expected maybe you would try to uphold it. You also took an oath to the Constitution.
Thank you for the reminder.
Well, it's important to
go fuck yourself.
Remind you, since you're apparently unfamiliar with the very basics of the core protection of freedom in our Constitution.
What I am familiar with is protecting the American public, and that's what
Let me close with one question, Mr. Chairman. Will you make sure that due process in every action of the FBI is completely honored under your time as director?
Will I ensure that due process is followed?
Yes.
Under the Constitution?
Completely. Send that message throughout the FBI that due process must be followed, is constitutionally required. Make sure that it's done under your direction.
Sure.
Great.
Sure. Sure. Hey, MAGA, is this the strong nation you wanted to build? Sure. Yeah. Oh, fuck it. Sure. Whatever, dude. What do I have to say to get this stupid fucking hearing to end? Because we both know that you don't mean shit. I don't give a fuck about democracy. I don't give a fuck about you being a judge. I am Trump's handpicked FBI director. I don't have to follow the fucking rules. That's what his sure meant. That's what... Sure. That's what that fucking meant. It's time to invoke the 25th Amendment. Donald Trump needs to be impeached, removed from office, and arrested. I'm not stupid enough to think he would ever get thrown in a prison cell, but God, would I fucking love to see it. Anyway, if you're watching this live, you stay. We're going to keep on going. If you're watching this pre-recorded on YouTube, I'm sorry, I wish I had something to soften the blow for you, but I don't. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and click that video popping up on screen right there. I promise you, it's an absolute fucking banger.